I'm Bonnie Watkins. With me still, co-hosting, is Caroline Moores.
Yes.
Welcome back, Caroline.
Yes.
And with us today is a special guest, Ekta Prakash, who is the Executive Director of CAPI. And she'll tell us more what CAPI stands for, but their mission is to guide refugees and immigrants towards self-determination and social equality.
Thank you.
It's a big job. Why don't you tell us all about it, including the name? What does CAPI stand for?
Oh, that's go back to the history of the organization, but the organization used to stand for Center for Asian and Pacific Islander. It was started in 1982 as a food shelf, and way back in 2008, we saw the trend changing that we're serving more than just Asian population, so the name was changed to CAPI. So it doesn't stand for anything, it's just CAPI itself.
But you can serve refugees and immigrants from everywhere
yes,
in the
so
world.
Yes, we serve refugees and immigrants from everywhere, from anywhere they're coming from, depending on what's the need and where the program they're falling into. So I think that's important for us.
And would you tell us a little bit more about the different services that you offer?
Sure. So historically, it has been the food shelf for 30 years, and I'll go back to the history because that's important how the program came into existence.
Sure.
So in 1990, we saw different trends of population coming from from different parts of the world. And so expanded into from other programs like employment and training. Food shelf was the key program, still is one of the Asian-specific food shelf we have in Minneapolis. There are other food shelves that serve Asian population, but it's only targeted towards people living in Hennepin County. We have employment and training, and we do health and human services, and lastly, the civic engagement and community development. That's how we integrate the social justice in our work, and we're trying to integrate more.
That's a wide variety of services.
It is, it is. And I think that's
Wonderful.
important because they're not coming for just one aspect. There are so many different needs, and how do we accomplish and help them lead a new life.
Right.
So I'm assuming there's sort of a cycle for people who have just arrived in this country. There are really some basic survival needs. And then, but I'm really interested in the civic engagement part, that maybe just say more about what is civic engagement. It's a term not everybody is familiar with.
You know, that's interesting because when in 2008, when we revised the mission, we had a new mission and goals, and one of them was integrating social justice in our work. CAPI has been historically a social service organization, and after several focus group, we were like, we are providing social services, but how do we empower the community and help them lead their own life? And
So that they don't need the services
yes,
anymore,
and
right?
CAPI, if CAPI doesn't exist, what do they do? So I think that was the turning point for CAPI way back in 2008, integrating social justice into our work and civic engagement. And last year, I think we did engage a lot of, Asian into get out the vote and voter registration. I think we reached over 10,000 people with the collaboration, but CAPI was able to reach 500 of our own participants. And I think it's important also for CAPI to know, and for the participants, what do they want? It's beside giving them services. So we do a lot of community listening sessions through our programs, and educate them about what are their rights and not just their needs. So that's very important for us, and that's how the conversation and that we integrate into our programs.
So empowerment is really a strong part, element of what you do.
And some of the examples are, we started a gardening project, and we do food shelf, which is like you come to food shelf, take food, and then you go. But through the listening sessions, the participants said they wanted to garden, and that's empowerment for them.
Right.
And we were like, okay, let's talk more about it and find more resources. So we started with 4 plots in 2011, and now we have 9 plots, and we are expanding, and the need is there, and people feel very self-empowered with all the education training they're getting through the gardening, and they want to grow. So I think and it ties with food justice and healthy living. So
Well, and also I can imagine that you build really strong networks and relationships, and that's different from just getting food at the food shelf, right?
And I think also leadership in the community, like people are taking their roles, like managing the markets and the plots. So I think those are some of the key factors we want to integrate those elements in our work. But I think we're still trying to find out how do we do it, because we don't do direct advocacy. So it's through, we did the healthcare campaign, for the affordable healthcare for 2 years, and educating and doing a lot of outreach and bringing the community together and voter registration. And I think one of the newest trend for CAPI is doing a place-based community development, and that's in Northwest Hennepin.
Wait, say that short. Place-based community development.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm too fast.
No, that's okay.
And that's based on our anecdotal data. We found out there are a lot of refugees, immigrants who used to live where we are located have moved out in suburb and Northwest Hennepin, and they're coming from there for seek services to CAPI on the Lake Street. So there are a lack of resources in Northwest Hennepin, and how do we provide services and be more accessible to them? So that is one of the strategy for CAPI is to be there in Northwest and enhance social economic opportunities for them, so that they have resources which is not culturally competent for them.
And speaking of, I know that there are many different cultural approaches to gardening. The gardening, my gardening light bulbs went off here. So isn't it correct that you've had Somali gardeners teaching their traditions to Hmong gardeners? All that cross-cultural stuff is really interesting.
Yes, and I think, that was in 2010 when we had Hmong farmers garden, and we had some Somali family. They wanted to garden, but they had never gardened. So it was teaching each other. It was a very cross-cultural. But it was just a beautiful story because it came up very nicely, and people learned from each other. And the language was a barrier, but they learned it, through actions. And I think that was just great.
Well, and it increases tolerance, understanding.
Yes.
And I assume this wasn't in seminar style, but out there in the gardens.
In the garden.
People are
and
communicating.
In the door knocking and community outreach. A lot of I remember when we started the project in 2010, my staff, she's from Somalia, she told me, we need to do the Somali way. And I'm like, what is the Somali way? Let's go door knocking. I'm like, I can't do that. And she's like, you have to do it. And we went out together, and it was fun. And it was just learning different culture, and, people get to know us. And it was just beautiful for me, myself, and just knowing about different culture, different parts of how the values exist.
So, Ekta, would you please tell us what the connection between your personal history and being the executive director of CAPI is?
Wow, that's a long wait. I think it was my father was very passionate about, he wanted me to be a social worker, but that didn't happen. So he wanted me to do something for the community when I was little, and watching him doing a lot of, he was a doctor, but being more like a social worker. And I think that was one of the biggest passion, just providing support to the community. And when I came here, I just saw myself as an immigrant, struggling to find a job. And it was very important to know the culture. So, tried different options and went to school back here, had started a career as just a volunteer and at many nonprofits. And then when I came to CAPI, it was just a lot of different mentoring at my work, my supervisors. I worked, I think, 3 different leadership, and it was just amazing. It was they showed me different path, and I think that became very passionate for me.
Your father must be very proud now.
Yeah, he is. He left us in 2008, but I think
I didn't know that.
he knows what I'm doing, so I feel good about it. And personally, my husband was very supportive, showing me direction and telling me, this is the right thing to do. So it was a very, everything worked out well.
Well, can I ask, too, I know that, certainly white people culture is very male-centric. I'm just wondering how, with all the cultures that you interact with in your job, you're female, you're short, you're pretty young. Is that a problem, or how do you cope, or, does everybody treat you with the respect that you should have?
That's interesting because when I took on this position, I was not sure, if I'm ready for this because I'm new and didn't have experience as an ED, as an executive director. But I see a lot of young people coming in the workforce, especially in nonprofit, which was not the trend, and it's exciting. So even at CAPI, it's a very young, energetic team, and which makes me feel more motivated. And people bring a lot of different skill sets. So I think it is. It's a learning, I would say. You feel like you cannot do it, but I think when you see people around you and they are ready to help you, I think that's
great.
Just great. Yeah.
Well, and you seem to have an open mind and be willing to learn from others, right? And I think that's probably the main ingredient.
And that's my approach, is very collaborative. Like, it's my team. It's my, at CAPI, I love the staff, I just believe in them, and I'm there is because if they believe in me. If they don't, then I don't need to be there.
Right.
What are the biggest groups of immigrants that are coming to Minnesota these days?
The trend has changed. It used to be Asian a while ago, long time ago, and now it's people coming from Somalia, but now it's more people coming from Karen. They are from Burma, and they're the Karen group. And also people coming from Bhutan, from Nepal, the Bhutanese. But still the Somali and the Karen are the biggest group coming here. So that affects organizationally us too, because if we don't have the capacity, how do we serve? So we have to make sure staffing, CAPI has that capacity to serve the people coming in.
And it's a pretty big staff, isn't it? How many?
We have 16 staff, part-time and full-time.
So that's a lot of services, a lot of diversity in who's being served.
Yes, we have people speak different languages. There are like 16 different languages, so it really helps CAPI. And they are leaders in their own community, so which is an asset for CAPI, providing very culturally specific services. I think that's just huge.
And am I right that there's a building, CAPI owns a building, and I believe I was there some time ago, and there's like a room where Muslims can pray, and a place to wash your feet before prayer. I mean, it's a really amazing building that really reflects the mission.
When we renovated the building, that was one of the things, staff were like, we need a space to pray and wash our feet before the prayer. And so I think we still have it, and people love it. So it's just amazing.
It's really a unique place.
It is a unique place, and for me, myself, I learned a lot as an immigrant coming. I had no background about the refugee and their life, and I learned a lot through my staff and going to their community, eating with their food, and that was just amazing for me to know about different cultures. So it's a lot of sharing.
Before I forget, we should ask for your website so that people can get more information.
It's www.capiusa.org.
So capiusa.org.
Yes, and we have all the information there. So
wonderful. Well, we have about a minute left, which is a long time. So what's new at CAPI? What are you excited about in the next year?
We are excited because there are a lot of things. We completed the 30th anniversary last year, and that was the biggest accomplishment. And for me, exciting being the new executive director and doing the celebration with my staff. So that was exciting. Completed our 2-year strategic plan, so it's exciting. And then we are organizationally doing better and growing and expanding, and I think that's key for us. We are very small as a team compared to what we were 6-7 years ago, but I think we are being very efficient in our services, so that's just great for CAPI, and CAPI's just doing financially great, so which is exciting.
Wonderful. You lead a great organization, and I thank you for enlightening us about CAPI.
Thank you.
Yes, and we do hope to have you back on several other topics,
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Carlene. Wonderful job. And Ekta, it was really a pleasure to see you again and hear about the wonderful work CAPI is doing. And thanks to all of you for listening.